Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from shannonstudio.com. And I am here to talk about a creative life, what that looks like. And I've been here 357 days in a row. So I'm super excited about that I've actually coming to a close of my goal for the year. And that, my word this year, I started last August, but my word that I picked around January was do, to actually do things. And I think that was just like the start of the catalyst of wanting to make action, to do action. Because when you are creative, a lot of times you're just visualizing, and I wanted to actually take that into the next step. But it's interesting because as you think about visualization, as I was today, and I don't know why I was thinking about that, but I was. There are some quotes. One of the quotes is, well, first off, have you ever had dreams that are so vivid that you wake up and you're just like, oh, phew, I didn't do that. or you're disappointed because it was so good and you wanted to stay there. I know my husband has a dream that I remember he had a boy who just woke up, and I don't know if I should say whatever, but he woke up and he was like, oh, he was so glad he didn't do this thing he was, dreaming about. I mean, I used to have these vivid dreams of things, and it would just, finally I had to stop talking about them because it would be like this little thing that went rolling on its own. And so I would start to have them, and I'd think, no, they were just a dream. Don't talk about them. And then finally, they eventually went away. But they're powerful. So this is what Jim Kwik in his podcast says. He says, the brain doesn't know the difference between something you vividly imagine and something that's real. Our brain, and there was another quote on my website that talks about that. Hey, Trisha. Hey, Rose, and the boyfriend. So I'm trying to see if I can pull up that quote off my website. But the brain's powerful. So they did some research, and they brought in a dog and let these people play with the dog. Then did some brain scan stuff and looked at the brains and saw what areas of the brain lit up when they were playing with this dog. So then they had the dog taken away, and then they, had them then imagine playing with a dog. Imagine a dog and go through the imagination process without a dog. And the same areas of the brain lit up. And then they did another test of free throws, making free throws. They had 3 groups. One group, they said, go home for 30 days, practice for an hour every day on the court with the ball, shooting free throws. And then they had group B, who practice in your mind every day without touching a ball, without touching a court. And then they had a third group that do nothing. And so, of course, the do nothing group, there was no progress. It was the same, 0% progress or decline. Then the people who practiced for 30 days for 1 hour a day, they had a 24% improvement in their successful free throw shots. Then the people that didn't get on the court, didn't have the ball, and just practiced in their brains, had a 23% improvement. I'm like, that, we've talked before about the power of the brain. But I mean, all the things that our brains can do. And I think, visualization to me is a superpower that we actually have. It's not the superpower where you wish you could be invisible. Visualization is actually a superpower that we can really utilize and access. And so totally forgot where I was going with that, but I meant to say something. I should have said it when I thought about it. So anyways, we have that superpower where we can visualize. And a lot of times we say, I'm not creative. A lot of times we're spending our time visualizing negative outcomes or negative life or how it's not going to work. We die 1,000 deaths before something really happens. We spend so much time thinking about it. And first off, I would call that wasted energy. But second of all, we are visualizing that outcome. I mean, they talk about manifestation and all these different types of things, and there is merit to some of that. There is. You know, when you get research, performing research and studies, and you get the outcomes over and over and over again, you have to admit there's something to it, even if you think that it's all woohoo and whatever. And if it just is a matter of thinking, you don't even have to get on the sweats and run outside and up and down the court. Like, I'll take that. I do think that there's other benefits that come from actually doing it. But because your muscles actually, anyways, I do. But we have talked about before how our bodies can respond to what we're thinking. So, but if you have continually said, I'm not creative, you are making that, and you make that become a truth. And, you know, we can't say on one hand, I want to be creative, and then on the other hand, say I'm not creative. We can't do that. It's conflicting, and the one's going to win out. So let's see, on Limitless, his book by Jim Kwik, says, okay, here's an exercise. He says, visualize your bed. So everybody visualize your bed. So then he says, you probably didn't see the words, the actual words, and his bed is obviously navy blue, but he says you probably didn't see the words navy blue sheets and big giant pillows in your mind. You saw pictures of them. And that was me. When I read that part, I was like, oh, I see my bed. The white blanket is all wadded up on top of the white sheets, the pillows. Yeah, I visualized. He goes, this is how your mind works. Your visual memory is very powerful. We have to take hold of the reins on our visual memory. We have to take hold of what we're thinking about. We have to take hold about ruminating. We have to take hold about a lot of things in order to make and create the life we want, especially now when you have coronavirus pandemic, when we're up and down with the isolation, no isolation, opening up, closing down, when we're, and then what am I going to do for a job, and are we going to have money? And we need everything we can bring to the table that will help us in still having successful, happy lives, especially now when there's sometimes negative can feel so overpowering. Research talks about, in the book Wired to Create, research has shown that dreaming about the future is something that nearly all of us naturally spend quite a bit of time doing. And if I remember correctly, it was like in this other book I read, it was like 30% of the day, daydreaming and wandering kind of thinking. But by regularly tapping into our own stream of consciousness, we personally reflect on the world and visualize our future selves. So the idea with Creative Heartbeats is that we're going to take time to do things and to see yourself in a different way than maybe you've seen before, and to start thinking and actually doing, so that our brain associates ourselves with creativity. So your brain starts to associate you as a creative individual on a regular basis. And I'm just going to read this real fast. Oh, like, what is that? So in Creative Heartbeats, even the inspiration part, because, part of it, when I was going through this and developing what we should be doing and what would be really good and what would really move the needle for people, and what has been my experience and what has been the experience that I've seen in others. And part of me was going to just omit the inspiration part, because it's not as necessarily as tangible as actually making something, but I knew it was powerful when we can just be inspired by other people. And sometimes in our lives, we're in a space where all we can do is see inspiration and be inspired. we're building little mental building blocks from the inspiration that will move us forward at a different point in time. So that's why I kept the inspiration in, because I want I want you and I to realize that we can visualize things, we can see things, and they do affect us. They do change the way we view things. And so inspiration is going to be the first week in the month, and I think I totally love the visual. And I think that's why we like entertainment and movies so much, because it puts us in that place like we've done it. Like, that's me. I'm in this movie. This is totally me. And so we get some of that, we feel some of that. And we react to some of that. Kind of like the basketball free throws in our minds. But I think that's why we're going to start in Creative Heartbeats with the inspiration, move to ideas, move then next to sketchbook, and then move to celebrating and to acknowledging some of the things we've done. So that is the tip tonight, that visualization, visualizing who you are, visualizing yourself creative is part of the journey. And it will be part of the journey with Creative Heartbeats. So with that said, remember you have a creative heartbeat, and listen for it. And I will be back tomorrow. Bye.